Hey, it's Raven Tactical here. I know recently that's been going around a lot is people have been talking and using the Shay's Rebellion as a reference. So myself, I thought I knew what the Shay's Rebellion was, and I actually didn't. So I did some research on it, and so the Shay's Rebellion, what I thought was a post-Civil War thing or a pre-Civil War thing, was actually a post-Revolutionary War in America. Your timeline is roughly about 1786 to 1787. The location is Western Massachusetts. And it's a post-Revolutionary War. The reason they fought, or I guess the reason there was an uprising and a reason that people were getting upset, were a lot of these uh, war heroes, a lot of the Revolutionary soldiers were coming back home to go back home to restart their farms, to work on their farms, to go to their properties, to kind of go back and actually live the life, start back life up again. A lot of the farms during the Revolutionary War at this point had donated their foods, goods, and had taken out money or not against, but with the intent that the government would reimburse them for growing grain, food, and all this thing. So these farmers kind of went into debt helping the war effort. Um, the country itself started being able to process to make money, like to be able to make coin. They had no gold or silver backing. So what happened was Western Massachusetts, I'm gonna screw that up. What they did was they started levying heavy taxes on these farmers to the point that these farmers couldn't pay it. So then they were forcing them to go to debtor's prison. Um, and what they would do is confiscate the farm, they confiscate the land, and just take it without really a whole lot of compensation for them. They were basically taxing them to death, and it was unfair because here's these guys who were vital in helping us win the war, and helping us actually defeat England, and helping us do all this. They were forced into it. Why? Because you're having a thing where we have now rural versus city, right? The city made the laws because the city is the elite. All the people live in the city. All the people making the laws live in the city, and they don't understand rural living. They couldn't tell you anything about farming. What they knew is they could tax the farmers because the farmers were the ones producing and had the land and had this. The farmers basically couldn't afford it, so their view was, well, they're in debt, so they go to debtor's prison, and one way to create the money was to take over their farm. Well, once they took over the farm, the city and the elite owned it now, and they could actually control it. Shay's Rebellion is basically, Shay was a Revolutionary War hero who was very, very famous during the war. When he came back home and saw that people and his people and all the people were going to debtors' prisons, and they were arresting people and destroying all these people's lives, he started organizing a fight. He organized protesters. He organized all these people. So during the summer of 1786, they started doing protests. They got a bunch of Revolutionary War vets together, and they went and marched across Western Massachusetts, and I believe they went across the state. They went and shut down courthouses, and they wound up taking over an armory so that they could get weapons and guns. They were shutting down the courthouses so that the courthouses couldn't foreclose or steal the farmers' land, and they couldn't put people in debtors' prisons. So the real weird thing about all of it too, when I learned about it, and it's really sad, Sam Adams, the guy who I usually looked up to as the kind of the instigator, the guy that was always willing to throw a fight, the one that was willing to be disruptive and have that drive for protest, and he wasn't very refined would be the word for it. He was very rough, around the edges, and wanted that fight to get people motivated. Sam Adams also started taking over and got into a leadership role, I believe governor, and he actually invoked a lot of anti-protest laws. He invoked kind of a pre-martial law, if you want to call it too, where he wanted people hung and for what he was calling treason and traitor. I think it's really, really terrible that that man who once was the pinnacle of, if you were to look into history before the Revolutionary War, he was that agitator. He was this guy. And for him to actually turn around and look at it like this was a terrible thing is just sad to me. I lost a little bit of respect for him in the end, but I still appreciate what he did pre-Revolutionary War. Um, the comparison I'm put here. Oh yeah, I should finish it too. So basically, as they marched across Western Massachusetts and across the state, they wound up getting. There was no national federal army as the feds or as our government wanted it. So they raised the militia to fight these guys, and they wound up winning. Shay's rebellion kind of ended with, how would I put it? It didn't end in their favor so much. It showed that we had a fight and showed that the people are there for it. It also showed a lot of things between federal government and just the normal average people too. So that was that. How do I think people are using it today? Well, right off the bat, for me, I look at it like this: rural versus city, right? Well, even where I'm at now, we got 15, 20 acres of land, and you get taxed, property taxed to death. They can just raise it for whatever they want. They want to build more schools, more roads, and right now, our governor just raised a whole bunch of fees and taxes just for driving a car. I don't even get a say in it. Like, I need to drive. I have to drive to town. All these things where I'm getting taxed. I'm getting feed. There's a fee and a tax and a levy for everything. You don't pay it, you're going to go to jail. So, the same concept still exists. Don't forget that the debtor's prison isn't too far off from what the IRS is capable of doing. The IRS is capable of taking you, if you were like a teacher, a doctor, a nurse. So let's say you have a teaching license, a license to be in medicine. They can remove that license from you until you pay your debt that they say you owe. Good luck going against the federal government and like this. So we see the same thing going on now. Do I think that we're going to have a kind of a miniature rebellion? I think it's possible. Looking at it like this, you can see how the rural side of everything is just getting destroyed. We're not represented anymore in government. Second Amendment people, like, if you were to seriously look at it, we're not represented anymore. Everything is a compromise to remove guns, to remove everything. There is no pro Second Amendment stance anymore. We've been basically compromised all the way through. I think we've been compromised and told that we need to get used to these taxes. We need to get used to having these things. And that's just the way it is, give to Caesar. So I think this is the problem we're facing now. Do I think someone's going to rise up and have a big fight? I hope so. Why? Because I think it's time that we protest and we actually have a voice out here that at least maybe not burn down the courthouse, but what we really need is some form of unity on the rural side to actually get people motivated to go, hey, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm tired of being taxed to death to pay for things that I don't use. I don't go to the downtown very often. Why am I being road taxed for this? Why am I paying out the butt for having a vehicle or a truck? When you live out here, you typically have a car and a truck. Why? The car gets you to work and the truck gets you your supplies. Sometimes you have a farm truck, so then you have to have something for wood. It's all these things that we get taxed for. I really honestly, I see it as this. If you really have any more to comment, please comment in the comment down below. Let me know what you think. I put this together and did a little research on it. If there's more that you can add to the Shay's Rebellion, please let me know. I'm going to probably come back to this at a certain point and see what's going on. I really hope we find someone similar to Shay. And do I think what it would be is our current veterans would be able to rise up? Hey, you know what? That's a possibility. Right now we have basically Afghan and Iraq vets who are in the same boat. I know a lot of people in the veteran community who just want to go back to their house and just live and be peaceful and not have, they want to be able to be on their land and kind of be self-sufficient and just be left alone. I feel like we're getting completely taxed, and that was the one thing I say right now for not post-apocalypse, but the one thing that I think is going to happen so far is when you have an economic collapse, they're going to come to the people like us and just say, hey, well, you got the land, so we're going to tax you and tax you and tax you. And I think at a certain point, you're going to be taxed off your property, you're going to be taxed out of your car, and you're going to be pushed down into the poverty class so that you're forced to rely on welfare, and the middle class is going to collapse. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you think. Hit like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and thank you.